Hey guys, the workshop just got a new lawn boring machine. Its first job will be on a bulldozer. 3 sections of the machine need to be lawn bored. I wasted no time and set up on the C-frame. The lawn boring machine only came with 2 bearings. A roller bearing in the bracket the motor gets mounted to, and a plumber block bearing. This was disappointing because the job was urgent and I couldn't wait for the others that were ordered to arrive. With the bearings so far apart, the boring bar picked up a lot of vibration, so I had to cut with a very slow feed. The hole closest to where the motor was mounted wasn't too bad. It was the other hole that was a pain. The boring bar isn't long, so I had to cut with my tool at the end of the bar. I couldn't just mount the motor on the other side then bore, because I only had the one bracket to mount on, and moving that bracket means I'd have to cut everything loose and set up again from the other side. Anyways, I got it done and ready for welding. Once the welding was complete, I set up to line bore. I must admit, with the way a person adjusts the tool, I was worried about not getting an accurate finished size. I mean literally less than a ball hair over size, and I'll have to start over again. I got both holes spot on, so I removed the line bore setup and cleaned up all the faces with the grinder and flat disc. That was that for the C-frame. It was now time for the second part of the dozer that needed line boring. In case you're wondering what part this is, it's the bracket on the rear end of the dozer that holds the H-frame. Just when I was about to bore the other side, my other plumber block bearings arrived, so I cut and drilled flat bar and mounted a third bearing on the job for better cuts. I repeated the same process I did on the C-frame, so I'm just going to show you a few clips of the line boring. I was happy with the end result on the bracket. Before I line bored the last piece of the dozer, I made up new pins to replace the old worn ones. I removed some of the plates that can be used on new pins and made one new plate. I had to pack my tools and go line bore the final section at the customer's workshop, as the dozer was stripped there. These holes are situated underneath the engine on the chassis. Just excuse the mess I made on the floor when stripping the dozer, but here's a quick walkthrough of my setup. With this setup I used 4 bearings. Obviously the one bearing on the bracket to hold my motor, one of each side of the holes I'm boring, and one in the center of the 2 holes. Having the 3 plumber block bearings positioned like this was a big time advantage because I could take big cuts with no vibration. I had to cut off a hook and a piece of the chassis as this was the only way I could mount my motor. This portion of the dozer is cast steel and situated in a really awkward position for me to weld up, so I headed back to the workshop to make bushes instead. I then headed back to the dozer to complete the job. I heated up the holes and slid the bushes in. Then I welded them in position and cleaned up with a grinder. I was very satisfied with the final result. The pin slid in with no play. My final step was to weld the hook back and the piece of the chassis I cut out. And that's that for this job. Thanks for watching, guys.